Okay, hopefully you saw my previous video on how I manually uh, processed the negative color to a positive. If you haven't seen it, you should go check it out because that covers a little more detail. For this one, I'm just gonna go fast. I'm not gonna say a lot. Well, I always talk too much, so I can't make any promises. But yeah, you should definitely check out the first one. This one is more specific about covering a case where we did not scan it according to Convert Negative's requirements. So this one is going to fail on Convert Negative, but it's not their fault. This was scanned before Convert Negative existed, and I just didn't follow their procedure because I didn't know the procedure. So maybe you have some old scans and you want to convert them too, and Capture One's Convert Negative just isn't working for you. Well, we can still take advantage of their fancy film negative mode, which does most of the heavy lifting. So let's go through that now. So let's see. So first thing is you want to white balance. Did I get it? Yeah, something like that. Okay, good. Now let's just. It's crooked and it's bothering me. Okay. So now, like always, you want to crop out anything that isn't part of the histogram, anything that's not part of the image. That like you don't want the noise from the film border in your histogram. That's just unnecessary. It's just going to add crud to the histogram that you're not trying to expose for. So, okay, now let's flip it. There we go. Wow, blue, of course, and that's because this was scanned way too dark, and I might even have overexposed or underexposed the image. I often try to overexpose because negative film like greatly handles overexposure better than underexposure. So I just yeah. Anyway, too much talking. So all right. So I don't find exposing for highlights very valuable. I find not exposing, white balancing for highlights valuable. I find white balancing for mid-tones and shadows much more valuable, and highlights are easy to fix. So, as a general, you don't have to do this, but I find it helps to just cut out the highlights. And not, I mean, like the sky specifically. Some highlights are fine, but the sky is just so knocking everything off the edge of your, especially blue channel, that it just makes it hard to white balance. So cutting that out helps to clean things up a lot. Okay, so now again, let's get the histogram into a place where we can see the majority of the data. This is not about what looks good on the screen. It's about getting the data in an accessible place. So we now see it here. We'll just round it off to a nice round. I don't know, I'm weird. 1.5 sounds nice. Okay, so now just like last time, we want to align each red, green, and blue channel into the center such that its leftmost and rightmost point line up just with these little center to zone guides. And we do that using the levels. So here, and I'm going to ignore those little tiny bits. That red is really in the way. I'm just going to go to the green so it's easier to see. And yeah, something like that. It doesn't have to be perfect because the point is about getting it aligned, and then we can always realign when it gets closer. So now I'm going to go into this channel because I want to get the blue aligned with the green. Ooh, gotta use the top one. All And it doesn't matter, the middle doesn't need to align. It's just this leftmost point and rightmost point that we care about. We want those to align like perfectly. In fact, I'm going to come over a little bit. There we go. Okay, and now with the red, same thing. Top one, and then we'll go a little that way. Oh, lots of movement. And there we go. Now you'll see as those left and right points are aligned in the center, I wasn't even looking at the image. I'm just looking at the histogram. This is just data. And the reason why this is important is because if you're looking at the screen, the image while trying to adjust for white balance, you're going to go crazy because there's nothing here that's true. So instead, looking at the histogram, looking at the data and lining it up, it's not your brain playing tricks on you. Doing it this way is a consistent, non-biased, not tricking your eye, not unique to one monitor versus another. This is true aligning each channel of the histogram. So once we've got that, that's our basis. From there, we can tailor to our likes or dislikes, but that's the important step. So now we can back off our crop here and get the big picture, literally. And everything is, in range pretty nicely. So the next thing to do is to just map the input to output properly, so that way we actually have some contrast. And I don't want to blow out this, so instead, we can. If you take a look and I like it like that, right? Okay, but the problem is, in this particular case, maybe even more like that. Now we're blowing out the highlights. So I think I did this in my last video as well, but another way we can do this is, instead of mapping it through the levels tool, we can map it through this curve. I didn't do this in the last video, but there's a good reason for doing it down here. We can be more tricky about it. So we can just go and line these up, and it looks about the same as it did, right? Well, one thing that tool doesn't allow us to do, at least not to the degree of this one, is we can create an S-curve here. And an S-curve is the trick for handling gentle fall-offs of blowouts like that. So this is the primary curve. It's not a curve, but curve. This is the primary curve for this set of data, and it looks pretty good as it is. But to handle that fall-off, what we're going to do is we're going to put some nodes in here. And now we're going to pull that off like that. And then just bring this down a hair. And what that's doing is it's keeping the interpretation of the data fairly normal through the midtones. But in the shadows and highlights, it allows us to get a little more creative and control exactly how we want those to fall off. So something like that looks good to me. Now we have this. It's still like, oh hey, there's kind of bright in here. Yeah, for sure. And we can fix that by coming back in here and tweaking these guys. Right now, because we have that fall off, you can see immediately as I slide it that this doesn't just drop off like it did. So neat trick, right? We can also adjust midtones this way, and that you'll see that uniformly shifts the entire histogram. And this affects only the shadow end. Okay, something like that. Now this is kind of bright, so we can now try adjusting the exposure, but notice how it just shifts everything. That's because the exposure is tied to the white balance. So another way is, The longer version of that is because when you shift the exposure, you're moving each of the histograms kind of like relative to how they were, but brightness moves them uniformly, and so we don't like the color channels shift together after our output mapping, not before. So it's much more natural. Now that brings this area down to where I like it, but this is a little bit dark now, so we can just back that off some. Anyway, this is now we're getting into the to taste area, so I'm gonna stop. But you can see I can touch the white balance just a hair now, and you don't want to touch it too much. But the reason why we might play with it a little is we were hand dialing in these points. You know, like we could be off by a hair, and so oops. So coming in here at the end and looking at the finished product. You know, sliding a little just to make sure you did get it right is, you know, it's not a bad idea. Yeah, something like that. Okay, I'm going to say this video is done. If you want to see more examples, there are even more trickier cases coming. So if you want to see those and how I handle them, watch the next videos.